Okay, let me get to the next part of our classroom discussion. Let me pop this up so you can see me. So I'm over in a Grauer textbook now. Maybe I could have you guys pull those out. And I'm over on page 531 here. This is chapter 5. And just kind of real quickly here, if you can open it up and flip the page over, we're going to be covering the title here, Subtotals, Pivot Tables, and Pivot Charts. And we're going to be covering today just the subtotals, and with that some outlines too. So if you look at, I'll just point to some graphics here. If you look at figure 5.1 on page 532, it lists the concept of grouping and ungrouping data into an outline, and the analogy that it utilizes is it's very similar to like an outline we'd use in any other type of hierarchical structure that we're trying to create. We usually use Roman numerals, letters, numbers, kind of alternating there like you see in figure 5.1. Let's go over to figure 5.2 on page 533, and here we're doing grouping and ungrouping of data. And if you take a look at that particular figure, you'll see that there's a spreadsheet here, and we have over on the left-hand margin a 1, 2, and 3 to collapse and expand rows, groups of rows, and then across the top you can do this for columns too, where you can actually expand and collapse columns. Okay, and move through it. So that's what outlining is. Okay, so it's a tool, and it's really grouping and subgroups. So it's a tool for creating a hierarchical structure, not to your data, but of your data. And then secondly, it's really similar if you think of an outline or word processing document, kind of a similar idea. And recognize too that everything we're going to be doing today, these are temporary structures. They can be saved, but they don't change your data. Your data remains the same. Okay, so I'll go over these today. Those are outlines. The other thing I want to show you today are subtotals. If I flip the page over to 534 and 535, you'll see here that here's the subtotal example on figure 5.4, where you take data and you have it subtotaled. And again, note on the left-hand side that we have kind of that outline format to it, and we can expand and contract those. And then if you note my data here, this one has discipline, area, book titles. Notice here how my data is grouped together. All right, and with grouping comes an opportunity here to come up with subtotals. So for instance, in row 7, the total for family interaction is $4,381 $4,381,375 there in gross sales. Okay, so you can see how you can get subtotals based upon particular fields in your data. Okay, and then here, if you look at the very bottom, figure 5.5, here is a subtotal. We got the grouping, we got the subtotals here, and now we've collapsed those. So now when a person looks at this, they just see the subtotals, the grand total, and the particular category that we're looking at. All right. So some subtotal information here. 1, it provides a method to group and subtotal data. 2, it's a temporary structure. And then 3, one of the things that we'll do in my examples today is that we need to sort by whatever the group field we choose prior to doing any subtotaling. All right. So I got a couple data sets here. Let me pull this one up. Make this a little bigger for you, and we'll zoom a little bit. All right, so I got a couple of fields we'll work with, or a couple of data sets. I grabbed, you start digging around the web, there's all sorts of interesting data sets. Here's one from there's an internet movie database that's out there, and I have kind of a subset of some of that data. And this might be if I had a collection of movies in my basement on DVD and I was cataloging them. Here's what I have here. I have a title field, a release year, the director of the movie, and the birth year of the director. Okay, so I don't have a lot of movies. What do I have here? 26 movies, but I can use this grouping and subtotaling in that data set. Let me go over the next one. I've been working in this class quite a bit with this particular data set. And this is a big data set. It's the spring 2011 data set for all the courses offered at the college here. And again, we can do things with this to kind of manipulate. What else I pull up here? I don't think we'll use this one, this exercise, but I pulled out the 2011 Seahawks defensive stats, or 2010, excuse me. And here I got, what do I got here? Totals of tackles, sacks, fumbles, interceptions. Okay, so I could do something with that at some time, but again, it's an example in their data set I could just pull off the internet, common data out there. And this one, what did I grab here? This is a sales, this is actually sales records for a company for, I did not get this off the internet, I got it from another source here, from the years 2004 to 2010, and there's, again, it's a lengthy data set. I have 229 records here, and I might want to, again, do some analysis work here. Okay, so let me start. I'll look at this whole idea of grouping here first, and I'll group columns. I'll show you how to use that. So I have this large data set here, and perhaps my intent here, I'll go over to my data tab, is I really don't want to view maybe some of these columns, but I don't want to get them out of here. Okay, and we looked already. Another tool we can use to do this is we can hide columns and show columns and all that, but let me group them here now. And grouping's a little different because I'm not really hiding them, I'm just grouping them together. Okay, so if I want to group these, all right, I click on group, and this is on my data tab, and all of a sudden this funny looking guy came up on top here, and it's got a plus and a minus sign. Okay, so it takes that group and it can collapse it, and I hit the plus, it expands it. Now note too, over on this side of my screen, let me zoom in a little more here, I get this 1 and 2, and note what this does too. So 2 is expanding and 1 contracts that. All right, and I could do that with a couple. Maybe I really could care less about where the class meets and the CRN and the instructor. And so these are all things that maybe I want to group together, and then I can collapse them, okay, or I can expand them. All right. Well, that may or may not give me what exactly I need to work with, but it's a tool there I'll show you that can be applied either to columns or rows. Let me take some rows here, and this is something that helps me out in my job because I do a lot of the schedule here. And let's say I just want to look at courses that are in my department. Okay, so I'm just going to go through here, and we got some CAD classes up here somewhere. So I'm going to take all the classes that aren't in those areas, and I'm going to group them. Okay, and then I can collapse them, right? All right, so we could start with my CAD classes. All right, what else we got here? Let's get rid of some of these other classes, and then we're looking for computer science classes, okay? Move up here. Oh, we got some computer technology classes. We'll group these guys together, and we'll collapse those. Okay, here's some computer technology, here's some computer science. Okay, now we start getting into some carpentry classes, and I'll collapse those. I'll group them, and I will collapse them. And now I'm down here some electronics courses, which are offered out of our department. We have IT courses, group them and hide those. Okay, there's our IT classes, but we're not interested in maybe the legal assisting classes or the math. In fact, what we're looking for now is we offer a bunch of alternative energy courses. So let me group, hide the detail there, and then I'll take everything else, nursing on, and we'll just get rid of them. Okay, we're not really getting rid of them. We're grouping them. We're hiding the detail. Okay, so now I'm able to if I want to see the whole schedule, I can fire out the whole schedule. Or I could do this for individual departments. I'm choosing just our department here, the ones that I deal with. And so this is grouping, and I can group and I can ungroup data. Okay. Let me show you another example here. Oh, by the way, let's do this. Let's print. So I hit my print button here, and you notice that if I wanted to print this data set, if we look over here on this side of the pane, we'll find out that my grouping is also helpful when I want to print things too. Okay. So that's good. Let's go to another data set. I had the sales data set over here. I'll zoom in a little bit on this one. All right, and I can do some grouping here, and I can group things by tax year. That might be helpful to me. I can group one set of data, like maybe I don't really want to look at tax years right now, so I can group that up, and then I could just collapse it. Okay, so I'm going to group those rows, and I will collapse them. Okay, so I don't worry about you. I'm just going to concentrate on maybe whatever I'm utilizing now. So it's not really an archiving tool, but I can close these up by year. Let's go through and do that. We'll finish the exercise here. So let me grab 2005. There's my data from 2005, and I want to group that together. I want to group my data from 2006 together. Okay, group, and I'll hide my detail again, and then here's 2007. If I can quickly get through this here. Group, hide detail, 2008. Okay, hide detail, and then 2009, and we'll leave the 2010 data as more current data. All right. So we go on to use my spreadsheet now. Really, if we look at this, whoa, bad move there. It's a roller on my mouse. Excuse that. Now when I go to look at my data, I just have really, I'm concerned with the data at hand, which is maybe 2010. Maybe I'm doing tax information right now. All right, but if I ever want to expand it, I can certainly do that. I just hit, you see the 1 and the 2. Okay, so that can expand it. Now I have it expanded by tax year if that's what I want to do with it, okay? Let me get rid of all that now. So you've seen grouping. And grouping is an interesting tool, but the one that I really like for analysis is subtotaling. So I will ungroup these guys. Okay, we're back. Do you notice I didn't change my data at all? It's still all there. I just maybe changed some of the formatting with it. Okay, let me zoom in a little more here. Now let's look at this a couple ways. All right, we'll do some subtotaling now. And I mentioned at the start of this, to subtotal we have to sort by whatever field it is that we're gonna group. All right, so let me group by projects here, because some of these projects they're clients that return multiple years. So I'll do a sort here. All right, and I'm on my data tool tab here, and I got my data tools. So I do my sort. Now my projects are alphabetized. Okay, so they're sorted and they're grouped together. They're ready for actual subtotaling now. So I go up here, I click my subtotal button, and I'll get the following dialog box. Okay, and the dialog box asks me where do I want to subtotal. And so at each change in, and we're going to look at project here, each change in project. So when this changes from AMX Doctors Group to Butternut Winery, okay, we'll go ahead and subtotal. All right. And then we get to choose what function. I got all my aggregate functions here: sum, count, average, max, min. And so I'm going to sum, and I could choose what field or fields I want to sum. And so what I'm going to look for here is I want to look for amounts. Okay, so whatever sales we had with that firm, I want to subtotal it. Okay, so click OK, and my spreadsheet goes through and it puts. Now look at my grouping over here. So I got my grouping here, but in between each transition from one project client to another, I get a subtotal. So here's the AMX Doctors Group, and I now have a subtotal of my sales with them. Okay, and here's Butternut Winery. I've had a lot of work with them, and I have a subtotal of their of my sales with them. Okay, so I've put subtotals in. Now what I find is really helpful here is I have these different levels. I have this hierarchy set up now. So 3, I expand everything. 2, I'm going to collapse it so it just summarizes. You see I did that automatically? Let me show you that again. Let me go to 3. It shows me all the records. And 2, now it just summarizes the total amount of sales that I've made with each of these groups or on each of these projects here. Okay, so if I take a look at this, this is a really, for this application, this is really useful because I can see who my really good clients are. So Butternut Winery has netted over the last 6 years $65,000 in revenue, and I can look at some of my other important clients here, and then also find some that aren't quite so important. So maybe the Soups and Sandwiches Grill, they're only an $800 client, but maybe they're new. Who knows what? But again, this is nice information for me. And I mentioned we have three levels here. Let me go, we're at level 2 right now. Let me go down to level 1. And of course, level 1 is the grand total of all my clients. So over the last 6 years or so, we've grossed $218,000 in revenue. Okay. All right. So that's subtotaling, and I have different layers. And you can see things are grouped now. And again, I had to go through prior to grouping them. I had to sort them. Okay. So let me go to subtotal now. I'm going to remove all this work I just did. Poof, it's gone. And again, we haven't changed the data. All right. And let's do another subtotal. Let's do a subtotal this time, and we're going to group things by tax year. Okay. So again, my first step, I got to do a sort. Okay, now things are sorted by tax year. All right, and now let me go up here and I'll do my subtotal. And at each change, and the group that's going to change here is every time my group changes to tax year, I want to sum the amount. Okay, so this will give me my gross earnings for each of the last 6 or 7 years. So I click OK. And what do I got? I got my layers here, my hierarchy again over here on the left side, and I go down, you can see here's my 2004 total. Okay, so here's what at the end of 2004 our gross revenue is. Okay, so let's click this now. Let's go to 2. All right, and now I have a very comprehensive picture of my gross revenues over the last, and I got 7 years worth of data here. Okay, that I could graph or plot or whatever I want to do with it. It looks like we had peak sales in 2008, in 2009, 2010, we've seen a slight drop or maybe even a significant drop. Okay, so that, again, that's all important data for me. Okay, and then I can expand. And expanding here. Okay, expand to 3 and then expand to 2. Okay, so there's my tax year. There's my grand total. All right, let me ungroup this now. To remove it all, I just hit remove all.